In this presentation on conduct, you will find the information that is presented in Rule 12 of the NFHS Rulebook on page 48, and additional information can be found on page 17 of our EOA Handbook. Here's the definition of unsporting conduct, which you need to take into consideration when determining whether or not to issue a card. During play, everybody should be seated on the bench except for the head coach, who's allowed to roam anywhere in the libero replacement zone. Ideally, we want the coach to stay in that area in case they need to speak to us. They're not doing it all the way from the end of the bench way down with the subs, but you can be a little lenient on this. You also want to make sure that they're standing 6 feet away from the sideline. Everybody else needs to be sitting. They can stand up briefly to spontaneously react and to greet those subs as they're coming out of the match. If the red card is issued to head coach or the assistant or the team bench, the head coach must remain seated for the remainder of the match, with a few exceptions. One of the few rule changes we have this year deals with penalties, in that a coach does not have to sit if a yellow card is administered to the head coach, any of the assistant coaches, or the team bench. He or she only has to sit when a red unsporting conduct card is issued to either the head coach, assistant coaches, or the team bench. Article 8 lists all of the things that would be unsporting conduct for a coach, substitute, or team attendant. And Article 9 lists the actions that would earn a player a penalty. How many of these do you think you could write down? Some of them are very similar. Some of them are worded a little differently. Hopefully, if behavior is warranted, you've been able to give a verbal warning to hopefully prevent any penalties from having to be administered. But if not, if you have a minor offense that warrants more than a verbal warning, you can pull out your yellow card. If there is a serious offense or a second minor offense, you're going to pull out your red card, where there will also be a loss of rally and a point awarded to the opponent. And if it escalates so much so that you have a flagrant offense, a second serious offense, or a third minor offense, you're going to pull out both cards, hold them one in each hand, displayed apart, for a disqualification. The offender will be disqualified from further participation in the match, and there's also a loss of rally and a point awarded to the opponent. Please note that cards are also carried over from set to set. Our procedures outlined in our handbook are slightly different from the VHSL rulebook, so make sure you pull out your handbook. We ask that the R1 calls the captain to the stand, displays the card to the offending side of the court using that same hand, and then verbalize to the captain and loud enough for the R2 to hear who the penalty is for and what it is for. Make sure you give the scorer time to record the penalty and give the captain time to walk over and speak to the coach. If there are simultaneous sanctions by both teams, the serving team shall be sanctioned first, followed by the receiving team. When the R2 witnesses or hears something that warrants a conduct penalty, you need to make sure that you have pre-gamed with your partner how you're going to request that. Are you going to verbalize it loud enough that he or she can hear from 30 feet away? Or are you going to pull out a card and just hold it in the middle of your chest and let them know whether or not you want a yellow or red card by doing it that way? Either way, you're going to step to the offending team side of the court and request that card. The R1 will then display the card and award a point, if necessary. And then the R2 shall repeat the point signal. And then as the R2, you always want to make sure you take the time to communicate with your scorer, make sure all the information is recorded appropriately, that they know who the penalty is for and if a point is necessary, and if there is a loss of serve involved in that as well.